What up?
He said, "What up?
My voice.
What up?
My voice is gone. My voice is gone.
What up? Happy Sunday, ladies and germs. Peace, human beings. Peace, human beings.
Why do you say that? Peace, human beings. What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, peace means what mostly people do when they say goodbye or they're saying, they're leaving a conversation with a good friend. They're like, all right, peace, right?
Right.
And then what are you? A human being. So peace, human beings, peace, human beings. In all honesty, I got it from I stole it from my favorite MC. And I would argue top 5, maybe my favorite of all time. That dude, shout out to Yasin Bey, aka Most Def. Love that dude, man. I stole it from him. He always says that, so I decided to adopt it.
What's up, Kevin? Kevin Snow things.
Peace, human beings. Peace, human beings. It's your boy Philly DC here with my partner in crime here, Pete, on the engineer boards. You got Jessica Player also and Dell out there doing their business. Welcome to another episode of Unpopular Celebrities here on this lovely Sunday morning. We have a great show for you. If you missed the last show, go ahead and catch it on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, or Facebook, the live or the podcast audio piece. But we're doing a series called Transitioning from Military to Civilian. When do you know it's time? And we received a lot of great responses and feedback from the last episode, which was episode 1. And so here we are with episode 2. We're going to double down on a little bit of what we talked about last week in terms of what's it like to push the button, the things that you may go through, and we're going to double down on that. This is going to be a long series, probably between 4 to 6. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah, shout out to Kevin for subscribing.
Big shout out to Kevin for the subscription. You see this?
Appreciate it, brother.
The sub goal up top. We're trying to get our goal. So one is 1% complete. So y'all math whiz can let y'all know what the sub goal is. But yeah.
But anyway, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into that. And as always, if you are in this space where you're thinking about transitioning, or you're in the process of transitioning like us, or rather me, or for folks who are, Kevin, go Bears, actually go Lions, brother. I'm hoping the Lions win today. No shade on you. But if you already transitioned like Pete and other folks, and you already got some nuggets you want to drop, feel free to put it in the comments. We'll read the comments out. You can help others, including myself. So we appreciate that. Pete, any comments before we get started?
No real comments right now. I'm trying to figure some things out. It doesn't look like our viewer count for Facebook is working. But we'll figure that. I'll figure that out maybe another day. I'm a little sick, under the weather, so I'm gonna rely on Philly to see this thing through, because I will not be at my 100%. Got my cough drop here, so I'm gonna take that and see if I can make it through this, because as they say, the show must go on.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, turn my light.
Good. All right. Well, without any more delay, we'll get started. So this is considered episode 2 of transitioning from military to civilian. When do you know it's time? So let's first start off. Last show, we kind of talked about the thought process that you may go through when you decide whether or not you want to push the button. Meaning, for folks who may not be in the military, if you decide to retire and you're serving in the military, and different services are different, but in the Air Force, there's a particular specific website you have to go through, and it checks your availability if you're able to retire. And then there's an actual button that you will click that will give you the opportunity for powers that be and Air Force Personnel Center to check your records to make sure you're good to go to retire. But pushing that button is significant because that is the first major step from the decision for you to decide to terminate or end your military career. Well, we got Andy Garrett, but what's up, man? You in the airport?
Oh, shoot, I can't hit my boom.
You in the airport, bro?
What's up? What's up, Big Andy? I heard you was local and I
Well,
missed you. Well, close to being local, man. Sorry. Sorry.
well, well, yeah, it's good to see you, Andy. He's another good person. Andy Gilbert, former chief, he already transitioned and is doing well on the other side. So he's a good example. But anyway, as I continue, so let's just start with me. And a lot of these, a lot of things we'll talk about during this series is our personal, our personal take on it because we're still going through it. Pete has already transitioned officially, maybe by 3 4 days, maybe a week. I'm still in my process. I got maybe a month or two left over. But for myself, when I decided to push a button, a bunch of things came to mind. Namely, one, I mean, what is natural, figuring out if you are ready or if it's time. So when you think about if it's time, you think about where you're at currently in your military career and also in your life. For me, I was at over 30 years, and usually when you take a specific job, you may end up getting a what's called a forgive me, um, it's like a requirement. You have to meet 2 or 3 years depending on a position. Like if you make E9, like Chief Master Sergeant, you have a 3 year
A service
selective
commitment?
service commitment. Thank you. Service commitment. So same thing. If you take a job, usually you're there for 2 years. So anyway, I was getting near the end of my job, of my current employment position in the military, and I was going to hit higher tenure. So for folks, I got a lot of comments through YouTube asking about what higher tenure meant. And so higher tenure means simply each grade in the military, there's a certain amount of years you can serve in that grade or rank before you have to retire. And the only way to avoid that is to go to the next grade. But for a chief, the maximum is 30 years, unless, and I won't go deep into that, but unless you take a specific position, which I did, and you're working for a 2, 3, or a 4-star general. So for me, I was at a point where I needed to decide, did I want to continue to go to the next level, what's called like tier 3 for a command chief at the MAGCOM level, or stay at the NAV? But I would have to work for a 3-star general and get another waiver to stay another 2 years. But a lot of things come with that. I had to decide whether or not I wanted to move my family again. I've had 12 or 13 PCSs since I've been in 30 years. So for me, my kids are grown. I have a 32-year-old and I have a 26-year-old. So Wendy and I didn't have any kids. So we could theoretically move, but for folks that have spouses, the key point is the more you move, the more it may be difficult for them to establish themselves in a career. And I got to a point where my wife was doing well at her position, working for the government, and she was ascending as far as her popularity and her expertise. She was well respected in her craft, and I didn't want to pull her away from that again. And so my initial thought was to try to stay, and hopefully there's a position open in this particular area I was in Texas. But unfortunately, the further you go up in rank and in position, the lesser jobs there are. So there weren't any positions available. So I had to make a decision. Am I willing to move and compete or transition? And I decided to transition. And so quickly, I'll say this and then I'll pause because I've been talking for a while. What was difficult for me was the thought processes as if I decide when I made a decision to transition instead of compete, I almost felt like it was a cop out. Like I felt as though I don't know if most people do it. You talk to yourself and you say, "Hey, counsel, are you serious? That's it? You gonna stop? I mean, you better than that. I mean, you're supposed to keep going, keep going." And it was hard to wrestle with that. It made me feel like I was giving up. And it took me a while to figure out I wasn't giving up. I was making a decision for myself, for my family, that's in my best interest. And I think I'm curious if other people feel that way, but it's hard because you've got to think the military is always thinking of themselves. What's best for the mission? You know how they say service before self? What's best for the mission? It's difficult when you've served so long. You're so used to thinking of the mission versus thinking of yourself. And that was that one time I actually thought about myself. And it was hard. I felt guilty. I'll pause there.
Don't really know what to say. I think we talked about a lot of this on the first episode, but if y'all got any questions as we go through this, feel free to chime in and ask your questions away, and we'll try to answer them, as you know, on this platform to the honesty and best that we can. So I think as we move on through this retirement period, and we go on to what a lot of people feel and how they might be feeling. I think you hit the nail on the head with some people are feeling like they're giving up, some people feeling like they're quitting. For me, like I told y'all in the first episode, y'all can go back and watch it of what I said there. So I'll leave that in suspense so y'all can go back and watch that on YouTube or any platform that you can see this podcast, which is Apple Podcast. What's that dang source called? What's that dang source everybody gets their music from? Starts with
Spotify.
Spotify. Thank you. Dang, Spotify, YouTube, whatever you want to see.
Okay. So anyway, when I got to that point and I decided I was going to do something for me, I finally hit to the point where I was comfortable with that decision. And so then it was the question of, who do I tell? Do you just click the button? Do you tell people ahead of time? And that's a tricky question because I've known folks who have went and told their supervisor, and here comes the comments. Why? What made you decide to leave? What are you going to do when you get out? There's nothing out there in the civilian world. It almost makes you question your decision. Now, if you're having a rough time in the military, you're maybe not a good performer. You're not going to have people probably say, good. You should have retired a long time ago. But for you folks who are superstars at your job, you're going to have people ask you those questions. And I will admit, it will make you, in some cases, really contemplate if you're making the right choice. Or they may dangle a carrot. I've heard cases where people say, if you stay another year, you'll get promoted. You'll get a strat. Now, I'm not trying to insinuate there are people out there that give hookups for people to stay longer. I'm not saying that. But there are cases where people will make you believe that you're giving up, you're putting yourself out of a position to and being in an advantageous position to move to the next rank or job. And it's hard. Let's see. Who's that? Ken Cliff. What's up, brother? I experienced the same thing getting out. I was afraid to get out. Thank you for that comment, man. And I think ultimately it boils down to that. Honestly, I think I felt there was a little bit of trepidation when I made that decision because I mentioned it on the last show, just trying to visualize what would it be like if I got out. And it is scary. Maybe for some people it's not, but it was scary. Not so much because I didn't think I could do it. It's more or less because I'm used to the same thing. Yesenia, what's up? One of my favorite folks. Don't like your husband though, because he's a dirtbag Cowboys fan. Anyway,
Jesus.
That's a powerful shift in focus, Chief. Your family became the mission. No carrot can compete with that, in my opinion. I agree. But and King Cliff says, but I stepped out on faith and had good military leadership and Chief Master Sergeant Simmons, Todd Simmons, who mentored me after the military. Going back to what Mazuka said, that's true, man. It's like you you get to a point where you really concentrate on your family, but it's the fear of failure. And faith has a lot to come with it. You have to really believe that it's just like anything. There are thousands of people that came after you that has already transitioned and they made it. So you will too. It's just believing that. King Cliff says, I knew who I was, trusted. I knew who I was, trusted in me. landed a good job, and completed my bachelor's and master's degree. Shout out to you. So anyway, so when I got to that point, for me, I did not tell many people. I told my supervisor at the time, obviously, because you want to tell them because when you hit the button, it goes to them anyway. Your commander. My supervisor was my commander. So I remember when I told General Allen, what I appreciated was that even there was a smile, and he was saying, "Hey, we're getting up there in time, Chief. I appreciate you letting me know." It was a lot of congratulatories and such, but it's always hard to see good people leave. And I think we mentioned on the last show, those of us that are in leadership positions, we've got to get out of the making people feel guilty for deciding to move on. Even if you're not retiring, if you're getting out at 4 or 6 years old, or not 6 years old, 6 years, 10 to 12 years, we've got to stop make people. We got to start getting out of making people feel guilty for the decision they made. We have to start preparing them as best as we can for that transition. And I'll pause there before I go to my next point.
Now go ahead.
Okay. So then it comes the next point of how do you conduct yourself after you hit the button? Because there's a lot of things that come to your mind. You know how you have someone that, think of it like when you're in a deployment. For those that have deployed, that have done like 6 months or a year on the deployment, and you get those deployment orders, you're getting to go home.
What's
What's
up?
up, brother?
What's up, Dooley?
You get this idea that you're about to go home, right? How many of you felt like when on deployment, when you found out you're getting your redeployment orders and you know when you're leaving, part of you feels like you're just dropping everything. Maybe not everything, but slow. You start to downshift a little bit, especially when your replacement gets there. When your replacement gets there, you kind of lean back a little bit because you're leaving. And I think I would compare it to this: when you hit the button, you start realizing like everything you thought about, your mind starts playing a different game with you because you're not thinking about, oh, next year we have annual awards we have to do, or maybe next year you may have a PCS or deployment. You don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, you're getting to a point where now you don't have to worry about that. And so what do you do? Do you downshift? And if you do, there's a perception of people that you work with. They're going to think, "Oh, he's retiring. Oh, she's retiring. He or she don't care anymore." And that's a real thing because you just feel like you have to work harder so people don't assume that you just gave up because they know you're retiring. So there's some people that will purposely not tell people where they work that they're retiring for that fear of that alone.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And just to kind of talk about that, about who do you tell? I think one, you have to tell your commander, right? It depending on your position, right? If you're doing, uh, you know, uh, 8 years, 10 years, maybe not so much, right? Just you're separating a little different. But you're retiring. Usually, you're a tech master, or higher. Usually, you have that relationship with your commander at that point, depending on how long you've been at the base, and a lot of that has dependency on that. But I wonder how many people in here that are retired, if they did tell their commander or not, or if they just like surprise, because they're gonna get the email, like you said. So as soon as you hit the button and do it, they get the email as well and let them know. So I think it's important that you at least tell them. Now, once you tell them, you have a decision to make. Do you tell them, hey, don't tell anybody that I'm retiring? And I think I'll take that personally. That's where I was at. I didn't want nobody to know because of what you said, the fear of this person don't care no more. Like you take a day off of work, they're like, oh, he's retired, it don't matter. If you don't show up for a meeting, he's retired, it don't matter. So
Mm-hmm.
it's that perception. It's just like, hold on. Like I mean, you got to remember, you click the button, you still got 365 days at the most. You can do less, just depending on where you're at. But 365 days, that's a lot of time. You want to stay involved as much as possible. Charles Davis said, "Good morning, fellas. Good morning. Good morning." If I may ask, which would you suggest, retiring overseas or CONUS? I have heard people say wait until you're back CONUS, but I don't totally understand the big difference. Thank you for your time. Man, you're so politically correct. Thank you for your time. Appreciate that. King Cliff said, my commander told me I was making a mistake. Bruh, that's it. Man, I'm talking loud. That's an interesting question. Is you say your commander told you that you're making a mistake, and I think you told me a while ago that you met your commander after the fact. But if you want to talk about that, you can. Back to the Charles Davis point: overseas or CONUS?
I've always been or heard it's best to retire CONUS than overseas because, well, here's the thing: if you plan on, which I've had many friends do it, staying in the country that you're serving in, then it's advantageous to retire over there. I.e., if you want to stay in Okinawa or Germany, but obviously there's some things, certain conditions you have to meet in order to stay there. But if you're planning on transitioning to the States, I think it would make it more difficult for you to do your process overseas because there's things you got to worry about. You got to worry about where you're going to go live, how you're going to find a job, which states provides the most benefits for disabled members. There's a lot of things you got to consider. Then, not only that, your family. If you want to have a retirement ceremony, you may not
Right,
have a lot of family attend
right,
because
right.
you're overseas. So, I think it's more advantageous if you retire CONUS than OCONUS, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think real quick, it all depends what you want to do after the fact. And like to Philly's point, if you care about having your family, having a retirement ceremony, it might be hard for them to get overseas or expensive or both. Uh, and then also, if you plan to move back to the States, you rather do it on the military dime to have them move you back to the States than you having feeling rushed because once you're done, you're done. There is no like, hold on. There's no like, can I get a couple more days? It's like a PCS. Like once you have your D Rose date, that's where it all comes. Once you're done, you're done. So if you plan on coming back to the States, I would say I retired stateside, but in my opinion, going through it, um, that's what I would think. Where y'all want me to have mine? I don't care if you have yours on the
Devon,
moon.
you're not retiring anyway, man. You're gonna be like a 30-year senior master sergeant. Yes, for
Hey,
people
that's
say you can't do that
crazy.
exactly.
That's crazy.
I'm just kidding. That didn't come out right. I'm just kidding.
That's
Anyway,
crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, so I don't think it matters, but who you tell or how you do it is really up to you. Really, it comes down to the person you are. If you're real flashy, I want to show everybody, want people to give me likes and say thank you, post it on social media, do whatever you do. I'm not that type of person. That's just not me personally. So I wasn't that type. And like I said, I didn't want nobody to know. People started hearing rumors, and so they would ask me personally, "Hey, I heard you're retiring." Nah, I don't. I would lie. I don't know where you heard that from. And they're like, "Oh man," but here's the thing: once you hit the button, it's like everybody knows. It's somehow the rumor gets out, and everybody knows, especially depending on your position. Uh, everybody knows. But I would still hold strong to my guns and be like, "Nope, not retiring." And then like 2, 3 months out, I was like, "Yeah, I am." Once the advertisement went out for my retirement ceremony, it's like you have no choice there.
Hmm. Here's a provocative question. What about folks who are married and the spouse? How much does a spouse dictates whether you retire or not at that particular time?
I think it
And
depends on the.
here's the reason why I say that. What if you have a spouse that says, "Well, because here's that fear. Well, if we retire, how are we going to get medical care? Where are you going to find a job? Where will we go?" So we talked about this last show. You stay in the military so long, you feel institutionalized. You're used to certain perks that you receive from the military, a lot of security. So you may have a military member who's like, "Look, I'm so burnt out. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to do something else." But the spouse, he or she may say, fear of, okay, what do we do? We don't have a plan, blah, blah, blah. How much should a spouse dictate whether the decision is made to stay or go?
Robert Roller said my spouse was happy as could be when I told her the plan to retire. I think, like Ken Cliff said, it's all about taking it. It don't matter when you get out, you take a leap of faith and you bet on yourself, right? We all got to get out eventually. So whether higher tenure or whatever it is, and hopefully if you're higher tenure, you built up a routine or a plan to get out. But to me, I don't think your spouse should matter at all. Uh, when you get out. And to answer those questions, what are we gonna do? Shit, I don't know. Like, but you have to have faith in me as your husband, as your wife, as your spouse to figure it the F out. Like, it might be you're not working for the first year of getting out. Now, if you are living paycheck to paycheck and your family is counting on your military paycheck, well, then that's a different conversation, right? But you have 365 days once you hit the button. Now, can you look for a job and stuff like that? I'm going all over the place. Dooley will get to your question. You can, but if you are counting on your paycheck, well, maybe right now is not the right time, and you take another year to figure out your finances right, and then maybe go from there. That's my answers with that. Devon McCoy said, "That's why I married a doctor." Type shit. Type shit. Uh, if you want to answer that, I'll let you. But Dooley has a question as well.
Okay. Why y'all think about what y'all think about seeing leaders that opt not to have a retirement ceremony?
Very disrespectful, kid.
30 years senior.
Very disrespectful.
You said you're married to a doctor, so it
Very
shouldn't be
disrespectful.
too much of an issue. I'll circle back with that because what I don't want to do is get out of order. Let me double back on the question I posed about spouses, and then Dooley will answer your question. I guess where I was getting at is it's easy for someone to give you input on whether you should not make a decision on something and it impacts them versus the person being in that particular moment. Case in point, if you have a spouse that may say, well, we're used to this. Like, what are we going to do? Like, the conversation of retirement should not happen the day you decide to hit the button.
Right, right.
It should be, and frankly, I mean, that goes more into marriage and the relationship thereof. You should know whether or not how your military member is doing in the military. You should have an inclination of how well they are, if they're feeling burned out, if they feel successful. If you have a spouse in the military and they've went for promotion 4 or 5 times and they're not making it, you might want to start thinking like, okay, well, what's the future look like? If you have a spouse that maybe has a lot of physical injuries and they're having problems with doing physical assessments and they're on waivers, you might want to start, you know what I mean? It should never happen the day you push the button. However, I do think ultimately it's the military member's decision. It ultimately comes down to that. Because if you stay because of fear, because of comfortability, and because you want to please someone, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And you're not going to be happy. And then trust me, it's nothing worse than have somebody that comes to work every day and they hate being there because people notice it. Especially if you're higher in rank, if you're like a supervisor, manager, senior leader, commander, if you don't want to be there, don't think people don't notice it. You can only mask it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And those folks that's going to be still staying in, they're going to depend on you. They're not going to know that you're struggling to stay in because you really want to get out, but you feel like you cannot get out. So it's almost best to just really come to grips with your decision. Devon says, I see a lot of times where the member is not open with their spouse about their performance at work. Oh, man. Yes. Yeah, man, that's another show for another day, but I've always had issue with didn't do that.
We should be back. Let's give it a second. We should be back. I don't know what happened with that, so give me a second. All right, we're back. All right, sorry about that. We got kicked off Facebook, but we're back. So those of you that will come back on, we'll start with this question again. We'll just leave it up there so people can see. So opting out to hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, you can finish your thoughts.
We're good now?
Yep.
Gotcha. What was I? Yeah.
You
I've
said
always
you
felt
always,
like it was
yeah.
good for people in your formation to see what it looks like for a military member to serve 20 years and then transition into civilian life. I think that's important. And I've always felt like it should be your responsibility to ensure that happens. The only issue I have with that is the stress of financial wise of what it comes with. You got to find a venue where to have it at. That costs money. You got to get a cake. You got to pay for folks to eat during the reception ceremony. Then you have the shadow box. That's a lot of stuff to consider when you plan a ceremony. And frankly, I don't think that should happen. I think there should be a way where not all, but there's certain things a military member shouldn't have to pay for. I think there should be provisions for the unit to pay for a standard shadow box for the member or a gift. And I know most formations they do gifts for folks, but you should not have to worry about that. And then there's the pain of just the whole thing of it. Scripts, national anthem singer, all that stuff. That can be stressful. And so I guess if it was for me, I think senior leaders should have a retirement ceremony. Although a lot comes with it, you should still have it. I think you should. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think if you some people, excuse me, if you don't have because it's really not for you, it's for your family, right? So if you don't have a family that can make it for whatever godly reasons happen and you don't want to have one because it's just you, I'm good with that. But if you have any type of family, especially kids and stuff like that that can make it is your time to for them to see you and people to gather around to say thank you for what you did. Whether it's mandatory or they want to be there, don't want to be there, doesn't matter. It's really for your family. And I'll be honest, like for my family loved it, and that's all I could really ask for because they never seen anything military at all. So whether I'm the best troop in the world or the worst troop in the world, it doesn't effing matter. Like it's really just for your family to see you, and then you can get your medals, get your certificates and stuff like that, and they dig that stuff, right? Get a certificate from the president. We all know how that works, but they don't. Some don't. And so if you don't have a family that is been to these before or ever seen these before, uh, then it's cool. But I think some people just don't have one because they don't feel like they had a respectful military career. I'm 75% on having mine at the Raven Stadium. Okay, well, good for you. That has at the Raven
Well, I
Stadium.
would I would think about. Well, you know what?
It's outside.
Maybe it's good. Maybe they might win something. Who knows?
All right, and then we have a long question. I don't know who Richie Brown is, but welcome to the show. I will try to move this up so we can see it.
I see it.
All right.
Richie Brown says, when I was ready, I told my spouse and she was excited for planning the next step. To answer the question, she supported whatever decision I made. I did overeducate her on the next step and we sat down and planned the future together. That way we were on the same page for the next step. Yo, shout out to you. You got a real one, man. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. I love it what he said about his spouse, supported whatever decision he made. John Becker, what's up, brother? I had a commander tell us, group of senior NCOs, that if you're over 20 as an enlisted member, it doesn't make fiscal sense to stay in. He said to get out and start earning. I was going to
Financial.
say
I
I
think it's supposed to be
100%
financial.
disagree with that. I will let you. I will let you answer that first because I do want to rant.
Yeah, does it make financial sense to get out? I think it all depends on where you're at or what you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's a one size fit all comment at all. Some of it doesn't make financial sense. Some of it does, and some people say you make more money getting out than staying in. There's all these different theories, and then you have veterans that are on the street being bums. So I think it all depends on who you are, where you're at in life, and it's a very crude thing to say that if you're over
Yes.
20, it doesn't make financial sense.
Yes.
It's a very
Yes.
negative mindset to have. And if
Yes.
you are in the military to be financial, then you're in the wrong business. And
Yes.
that has always been there since you've been an airman.
Yes.
Now there's their financial perks for being in the military. Yeah, you get 10% off at the mall and stuff like that. You get,
At the
credit
mall.
cards for free and stuff. You get travel and stuff like that. So are there benefits? Yeah. But if you're in it for paycheck to paycheck, yeah, we don't make as much as you do working everywhere else. But if you're also in it because of that, then you're in the wrong spot. RRR,
Yep.
what's up, man? Happy New Year. Happy New Year. All right, go ahead. We got two more questions and I'll let you go on. Well, you can go on
Yeah,
your
I
rant,
won't
then
go
we
on a
got two
rant
more.
for that. You nailed everything I was going to say. Only thing I would say is, whoever that commander was, shame on you, man. Shame on you. I would argue you make more money on the outside, whether you come in airman basic or lieutenant anyway.
Right.
You don't join the military to get rich. If you stay over 20 and you're telling people if you stay over 20 because it doesn't make financial sense, you can make more money. Shame on you, man. You don't join the military to get rich. And I think if you stay past 20, you stay past 20 because you make the decision, you enjoy where you're at. Don't stay past 20 because financial reasons. Then I would argue how effective you are because you're not thinking about what you're supposed to be doing. When you get to a point where if you're over 20, you're worried about financial reasons, you probably shouldn't be in there because then you're not concentrating on what you're supposed to be concentrating on. Anyway.
All right, Charles Davis
Oh, good
said,
Lord.
yeah, he said, so real life hit this past week. MDG, I think that's
Med
medical.
group.
Yep, hit me 30 days out from overseas PCS and said you got to push 90 days because two medical things were flagged, and there will most likely be an MEB, medical review board, or medical evaluation board, so that put things in perspective. Military's temporary life with my spouse is permanent. 100% not having a ceremony and wife is 100% good with me. So he's good with not having a ceremony. And the wife is 100% good with me. I just disagree with that. I just disagree. While I don't agree with the statement, what statement don't you agree
What
with
statement?
about being rich outside of the military? Because Devon, we're gonna talk about that one if you disagree with that. But
I
for
think
Charles
maybe
Davis,
he's
if
going
you oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think he's talking about the statement that Commander made. I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand it. I just don't agree with it. If you're talking about that, I get you. But everybody is different, and
Right.
everybody cannot. Everybody. Oh man, stop me if I go onto a rant. Everybody talks about when I get out, I'm getting a 6-figure job. Everybody talks about that. The likelihood of getting a 6-figure job out of another job is not easy. It is very now. Some people get there. I'm not saying it's 100% guaranteed you won't, and I'm not discouraging anybody, but it is not as easy just snapping our fingers and getting 6 figures. It's really not. Now, unless you have those lucrative skills, engineering background, if you have um, computer science background, contracting background, yeah, there are some companies that will, but everything's about timing. Maybe they're not looking to hire nobody. Maybe they're in a hiring shortage and now they need people. So it's all about where you are, time and space in the United States or outside the United States. But it is not as easy as people say. I'm just getting out and getting a 6-figure job. I understand what the CC is saying. It particularly is true depending on your VA rating.
I
But
won't.
yeah,
I will say this because we'll cover a little bit of VA piece, very general, next episode in phase 3. But you should never depend on VA. You hope for the best, but you never depend on it. And to tell people again, if you go past 20, it doesn't make financial sense because if you're alluding to because of a VA rating, then you're already setting them up for failure. You stay in for 20 because you still feel like you're contributing, you enjoy it, or if you don't, you transition. And to your point, I agree. My wife says it all the time, who is considered an expert in employment at the military family readiness center. Folks between senior NCOs and officers believe when they get out, they're gonna make six figures. Not everyone will make six figures. And in some cases, you may have to humble yourself and start off at the entry level. There are a lot of civilian organizations that love the military. There's also some civilian organizations that maybe are have a military bias, meaning we're too rigid, we're maybe too straightforward, you know, and it could be intimidating. Devon says that's why I said partially true. Thank you, brother. So anyway, I want to get too far on that because that's later on in the episode series. So we'll double back to what we were saying um, about episode or phase two, what we talked about. So we talked about who you tell. We talked about some of the thoughts you may feel or others may feel when they find out you're hitting the button. Let's talk about guilt. And what I mean by that is, speaking for me personally, there are times I felt guilty for wanting to retire because I thought about who's going to take over for me if I leave. What would happen to the airmen? Am I choosing myself over the military? Is it the right time to think this? Who's going to judge me? I think those are all fair things to think about and be concerned about. But how do you did you feel that way? How did you navigate?
No, not at all. Didn't feel guilty at all. I feel like the Air Force is going to move on without me regardless. So they were here before me. They're going to be here after me. I feel like I can still contribute with the podcast or stuff like that, but I didn't feel guilty at all. Zero, zip, nada. And
Did you feel guilty that you were leaving stuff on the table, like a promotion to senior master sergeant, a particular assignment or anything?
I did until I realized it wasn't going to happen. But once I realized it wasn't going to happen, it's like, who cares? Like, they're going to move on without me. I think that's part of the realization of retirement is you are done. It's like retiring from anything. You're not retiring and then going to be a consultant, you know, for the squadron or wherever you leave. So you're done. Like, just be happy with being done. And I think, you know, two different opinions on that. Some people say you have those people that retire that just can't let it go. And then you have the people that retire and never show up again. And it's like you're at one side or the other of the spectrum. It's like, don't call me an airman. Don't call me a NCO. Don't call me sergeant this or chief this. Like, just call me Bob from now on. And they just let it all the way go. Del Brown, come back as Daff. Come back as Daff. Never. Well, I wouldn't say never, but if I can help it. If I can help it, never, never. Charles Davis said, when I got out, I wanted a job, but I didn't want to work. I hope your employer doesn't hear this. No supervising. I don't want all that. 23 years in MX maintenance made me realize enough. Plus, we moved to Thailand and doing the DVT visa until I reach the retirement visa age required. I don't know what DVT is. Triple R says, never cared about the job spot. It will get filled every single time. I agree. In 4 months, they won't even remember you were there. Now, that I don't agree with. They'll remember. Whether you're good or bad, they'll remember. Definitely remember. Charles Davis also said, guilt. Man, DC, the Air Force been around for 75 years. U.S. Air Force will be all right. Kind of my mindset. Go ahead.
So I would compare it to the feeling you get when, like, WAPS testing. For those who are old as me and they've done WAPS testing, and you go in there, or maybe not WAPS testing. Let's say you're doing a test at school, and you are going through your tests, and you know just one shot, and that's it. And then you hear that voice say, pens down. And you put your pens and pencils down, and you get this feeling like, I know I got it. But then you start thinking, what if question 3 was wrong? Maybe I should have changed it. Maybe I should have changed question 5. Maybe I should have changed question 6. I would liken that experience to this. Because yeah, I know the Air Force continues on. They're going to have somebody fill your position. Heck, Ronnie Woods was already named when I decided to retire. So someone's going to take my spot. But you always think, I don't know about you guys, but I've always thought when I made that decision of one, what if I could have just stayed another 2 years? I could have maybe went to another NAF job or a MatchCom. What would it have been like to go back to a squadron? What if I would have stayed a little bit longer and I could have been a part of the deployed combat wing? Or what do I do with airman so and so that I see every Sunday or every Monday for mentorship? What's going to happen to them? For me, those thoughts always went through my mind. I think of that as, I think for those who may feel that way, maybe not everybody, but if you do feel that way, I think it's perfectly natural. It's perfectly okay. That means you had a lot invested in this enterprise. I think it's perfectly natural. In fact, I'm a little surprised people may not feel that way, because I think in the end, you have to realize you have to move on. That is certain. But I also think there is nothing wrong with having that feeling. What if? Or if I could have done this.
All right, Charles Davis said, I said, when I get out, Pete. Pete's still on that military reading, aka speed. Yeah, hey, very true. Maybe that is true. All right, my bad. I misread that. You never told us what the next job you got offered was. Okay.
So,
Uh,
what do you
can
say?
it, can anyone name the ninth president of the United States? Nope. And he said that because he said, "Do you even know your great grandpa's name?" And he's in your family. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, bro. But I think it's a little different, like with that. Tony Renee, what's up? Said Devon McCoy. He sure didn't. Huh. Okay. What's up? What's up, Miss Ferguson? Uh, what ifs? Question mark. Say you started, or
No.
say you stayed in longer to see if your what ifs happen and you miss out on everything else in life, like family and moments you never get back. Good point. Pete, you had a job but didn't work. You were a dog. I can't
He
hear my
picked up
butt,
poop
but
every day. He
I
picked
can't
up
hear.
poop every day.
I can't hear my butt, but that's a good point. That's a good point.
You picked
That's a
up
good
poop
point.
every day. That's what he tried to say. You picked up poop every day.
Pete just reading. DC, what was the job?
What you
I miss.
mean?
You said, well, they're both on something that you say. You say you never told us what the next job you got offered was.
Okay, so let me clarify. I didn't get offered a job, but for folks in these positions, there comes a time when they start asking you, what do you want to do in your next job? And typically, they send your name for slates for consideration. There's no guarantee you'll get another job. But if you do, you may have to move. And so I wanted to be transparent, and I told my command chief that I was not willing to leave Texas. I would be willing to serve, but only if I could stay in this area. And
Do you think that's
thankfully
a?
for him, which is what?
Go ahead.
Thankfully for him, Bill Fitch, shout out to Bill Fitch. He was honest. He's like, hey, look, there's nothing open in Texas. Are you sure you want to stay in Texas? Because there's not many opportunities there. So then I had a decision. I could have just like, okay, fine, open my name up for everything. But I wasn't willing to leave. And I think the right thing is to realize, no matter what position you're in or how long you serve, Air Force needs come first. And how can I be mad at the Air Force for saying, look, there's nothing open in Texas. I can't expect for them to move somebody so I can go there. And I still had to interview for the job. So there could have been another position out there, but it would have required me to leave, and I wasn't willing to do that.
Devon, what he basically says, you ain't up there on his level yet to understand.
Nah, Devon didn't say that.
That's basically that. What he said. Dale Brown, what up, big homie? You know you could jump on the show whenever you want. I know you have a lot of stuff going on and it's different time zones. But anyway, thank you for coming on. I ain't gonna. I think you meant lie. When Pete put on the diamond, I thought he had more runway ahead of you, bro. You had a different desire about the Air Force that I saw just outside looking in. Nothing but hey, I'll be honest with you. I think you, man, you already know more than anybody know, man. I just did that to get out of security forces. Man, F that. Like, I know I was good at the job. I knew I would be pretty good at doing diamond stuff for what they did, talking to people, being around people, advising commanders and stuff like that. But man, F that, man. I knew it was time to go. And I think this is a true point, and you can answer this, Philly. I think when most people retire or decide to hit the button, they knew it probably a year before they hit the button or months before they hit the button. It ain't like they just woke up on a Tuesday and hit the button and was like, yep, I'm going to retire a year from now. They probably thought about it a year ago, 2 years ago, had conversation, even a self conversation. So I think once you reach that point, and that goes to a point where it's like, when do you know? And people always say that you know when you know. I think that's very true. It's hard to understand, but it's very true. It's very true. I'm a person else. I understand slates that come from stats. He said, "Get your mind right." Triple R said, "I did 8 years and should have got out."
Oh
out the
wow, I
third
would
year.
love to hear why. I would
Yeah,
love to
that's
hear
kind of
why.
crazy. What's up, Larinaga? Pete, did you stay in Arizona? If so, you end up pursuing the teaching route. Hope you're doing. Yeah. We can talk, man. You could always text me, man, or call me. But yeah, I'm still out here for now and still trying to find that avenue because it's quite difficult to find places. But hopefully January will open stuff up. But what's the next thing we had to talk about?
Okay, I want to pass on the comment I got from Tony Renee through a DM. Tony Renee says, I got my dream job as the DA development advisor this upcoming June. Congratulations to you, Tony.
Congratulations. Yep.
I felt bad about getting it because I know I'm only going to do 2 years and then retire. And it's a 3 year tour. My mentor said what Pete said. The Air Force is going to move on after I retire. So take the job. Thoughts?
The Air Forces take the yeah. I mean, take the
So
job.
let me rephrase that because there are a lot of folks I know. You can kind of relate this to stratification too. There are folks I know that end up getting a strat for chief or made chief, and they turned it down and transitioned. And to Tony Renee's point, she gets this new job. It's a 3 year tour, but she knows she's going to only do two because she's going to opt out the last year to be able to transition. And she felt some she felt guilty to some degree about that. And her supervisor said, "You should take it. The Air Force is going to move on without
Yeah,
you."
I totally agree. At the point that you're at, that you have put time and effort into the military, as long as you're honest and open, and people who select you know that this is your plan. Now, if you go there with the preconceived notion you're going to do 3 years and only going to do two in your mind, that's kind of dirty. But if you're open and honest and be like, "Hey, I'm only doing 2 years. That's all I can give you," and it's at the location you want to retire, so you think about your family aspect, take the job. And you could do well in the job, take the job. Because you know what? There'll be somebody else in your shoes that is not thinking that way, is not being honest, but can only do 2 years. So that's my thoughts behind it. Nikki Vision Vanish. I think it's Vanish. I'm tired and ready to go. Hey, if you're tired and ready to go and you're ready to go, go ahead.
I'm tired.
Hey, if you ready to go, go. Tony Renee said, or excuse me, Devon said, Peter teacher, oh hell no. Yep. Sure right. Felicia Perkins said, if she didn't do it, the next person would. Yeah, exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. Yeah, don't nobody care. I meant for you to stay with say
Oh,
without
my
my name.
bad.
That is crazy work right there. That is
I'm sorry.
probably why she DM'd you.
Hey, so attention all.
It's too late.
Forget what
Just
I
move
said
on.
about the names.
Just
You know
move
what I'm
on.
saying? A
Just move
certain
on.
person I
Just
know,
move on.
a lovely lady I know.
That's
Anyway, I'm
crazy.
sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I boo boo today. Anyway, that's an interesting point because, like I said, some people will make you feel guilty for doing that, and I'm kind of torn on both ends. I think you already said as long as you're honest, as much as you, there's no need to reveal everything because I've had people also say they didn't want to do anything. Now I'm about to give it. No, you're not. You're not. We're not. About what, Tony? I don't know why
Stop
you would
saying
say
her
that. About
name.
what?
Stop saying her name.
No, I'm just saying. I don't know what she's talking about. Do you? You don't know what she's talking about. I need Pete to read 5 pages out of a Harry Potter book during the interview. Better yet, say, no, I did not.
Yes,
I don't know what we're even talking about, Tony, for. Who is this person?
This is crazy.
Who is she?
Please, somebody ask another question.
Anyway, as we move on, in the end, you got to do what's best for you, but be as honest as you can, as much as possible. Okay, so Charles Davis is divine. I said the same thing. I know he's not going to be a grammar teacher.
Yeah.
Future employers looking at this and saying, hell.
Yeah, I ain't gonna teach English. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Yo, I don't even know why we talk. I don't even know who Tony Renee is.
What
are we talking about?
Please
Moving on. Okay, so I think in the end, I think you have to be comfortable with the decision you made. You've got to realize some people are going to support you, some people will not. You've also got to realize some people will assume, because if your performance dips or if you decide to miss a meeting or whatever, some people are going to just assume that you're checked out because you're retired.
Type shit.
And it's nothing you can do about that. I think you still maintain your performance as much as possible, which brings me to my next point. You're going to get to a point, at least for me, I felt like I'm struggling with 2 things in my mind. I'm struggling with the now and what's to come. Because when you hit the button
type shit,
a clock starts.
Right.
Because now you have to start preparing, all the while serving in your current position. How did you navigate that?
I think, well, let me get to this comment and we'll go through that. You will know when it's time. At the end of the day, only you.
Oh, Russell, wait, what's up?
Only you will take care of you. Transitioning is stressful until you make the decision. I wasn't ready, but it was the best decision for me and my family. Yep. Devon, what if you had to pick between Pete and Floyd Mayweather? I'm struggling with what to come. So, Chief.
Hey, Mr. Wade, why you ain't add me on your LinkedIn, man? You ghosted me. I was trying to connect with you, brother. So I want to pose a question.
I'm struggling with what's to come. Okay, go ahead.
Yes,
pose your question.
I want to pose a question. Mr. Wade, would you agree, you being, I hate to put your business out there, even though I've been doing it all.
Oh, please stop people putting business out
you there. Being a former commissioned officer in the Air Force. And now a civilian. You've been pretty successful. I mean, you got all kinds of Louis bags and anything. But anyway. What is it? Is there a difference in the thought process of a commissioned officer versus a senior enlisted of transitioning when it comes to financially and experience-wise? Devon says DC called another person out. Goddamn. No, I'm not trying to be like that. It's my bad, you know. And if you guys want some stylish tips for high fashion, see Mr. Russell Wade.
Hey, Devon, you hit the nail on the head.
Yes, I'm asking for a
comment.
I used to work for you, Mr. Wade.
I would give you the boom. I would give you the boom if I could.
I'm open.
That's hilarious. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Hey, Devon, you'll see. You'll see when you get out. You use all your resources you can. I ain't even mad. So,
Mr. Wade, it'd be nice if you put some comments in there. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But anyway, you said, back to the question. You said, how did you navigate splitting your time between doing your job, and you had a high profile job, being a first sergeant? You still had to take care of people and all that, and still worry about transition.
I think that's what helped, is that you still had to do your job, because I didn't know my replacement. I think I had my replacement about 2 weeks out, maybe less, maybe a week out. And we only had like a week transition in between there. So you still are in the game. And as being a first sergeant, everybody knows this. I'm not tooting any first sergeant's horn or anything like that, or saying that our job is more or less important. But you still have people to take care of. You take care of people from the commander on down. And so you really don't have time to take days off or think about yourself too much. You still got to stay in the fight as much as you can, and go to meetings and stuff like that. Now, when they talk about stuff like 2026, as we are now, back in 2025, yeah, I kind of tuned that out, tuned off my like, what can I do to get y'all close? But I damn sure don't care about the finish line with this. But certain things you have to decide what you're going to tune out and what you're still going to be invested in. Award programs and stuff like that. You still got to be invested in those because those ain't for you, it's for other people. And you can't lead them as having a bad notion about what a first sergeant is because you got somebody else coming in for you. What up? What up? What up? I don't know who you are, but what up?
What up, brother? Welcome to the show, man. YouTube subscribe. What's up?
Yeah, I think Russell Waite just ignored you. But moving on.
Damn, why you had to say it like that for? I don't think he ignored me. Maybe he just thought I was kidding you.
Okay.
We should do a poll. I wish, I need to find out a way to do a poll because I would put a poll up there. Those who think Pete isn't put yes or no. Yes
we
or
can
no.
do a poll. We can always do a poll. Those are easy.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, I digress. I think it's different. I think for
What up,
me,
Harrison?
it was hard, man, because what's up, G? Because my job, I still have to do my job, but my mind was thinking about the things I have to do to prepare. Absolutely. What's up, brother?
PJ,
and it was hard. Put the
man.
application in the shred pile. That's messed up, man. Jessica Player says y'all still on. Yeah, girl, we still on.
Wait, he answered your question, so here you go. He actually
Russell Wade says, absolutely. As you may know, my wife was a senior master sergeant when we both decided to retire. Big money. My advice is to know your worth. Most of us think that the retiring officer always gets the better opportunities compared to senior NCOs. I like that. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
I would agree with that mindset.
What you talking about? I said, yeah, I agree with him. What you talking about?
No, he said most of us think, in parentheses, that retired officers always get better opportunities as compared. I would think that's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was the thing.
I agree. I mean, it's assumed. I mean, I agreed with him. That's what I'm saying.
What's up, Wallington?
What's going on, bro?
Great perspective right there, Pete. Thank you.
Just read the comment. Focus.
You are right having the bandwidth for your people. As I'm getting close to the end, I often think about what I need to get ready for transition. Oh man, my wife was initially offered a GS-12 position. Hit the money bell for that. We discussed her opportunity, and she was offered a GS-4. Hit the two money bells for that. Can we know your how that happens? Like, how does that? Is it just right timing, right place, right time? How do we get in the same part of the GS level like that? I mean, shout out to her and y'all, but that's crazy. Go ahead.
What I was gonna say.
You said you were struggling.
I kind of get ahead of myself because Russell Wade's comment was interesting about some folks. I think Charles Davis mentioned it earlier. You have some folks in senior positions when they get out, they don't want to supervise or lead nothing. Then you have some people that feel compelled they have to get back into that rhythm. Russell Wade says all our records speak for themselves at this level. It's about what you know and who you know.
What do you say?
That's right, networking. So Russell Wade, if you got a job for me here in Texas, I'm gonna use you down as a reference, brother. Devon says it's assumed, but dead ass the civilian I worked with was the previous FSS commander, and I never knew it till somebody randomly said it.
I like people like that. I admire people like that. You would never know where they come from or who they are. Like, man, we have this dude. He's a retired lieutenant colonel. Never knew. And eventually, he told me, he's like, yeah, he's an Army lieutenant colonel. I was like, goodness gracious.
Yeah, in fact, isn't it true, like at your last job, I'm about to add. See, exactly. Hey, add Mr. Wade. He's that dude, man.
He gonna get 100 freaking.
He's that dude.
100 freaking friend connections.
Russell Wade.
To this day, I still shout out
job announcements that come across my desk. I didn't get one.
He said senior NCOs, not chiefs.
I didn't get one.
He said senior NCOs, not chiefs.
What I was gonna say, fudge. What was I going to say?
He said, I got you.
What was I going to say? Tony Renee says, that's my husband. He took a GS-12 non-supervisory. A 13 is available as supervisor. And he was like, nah. So that's what I want to say. Why would people, Pete, yep, he was a UPC. It threw me off. Why do people feel like, two dynamics. Why do people feel like when they retire, they don't want any job where they have to supervise? Or people that retire and they feel like, no, last I checked.
Go ahead, keep your thought, keep your thought going. Like keep your thoughts going.
Anyway, don't worry about me. I'm good. Anyway, why do people feel like, and I think I could be wrong, but I think the majority of officers I met, especially commanders, they feel like they have to roll right into that GS 13, 14, 15 SCS job, or they don't feel fulfilled. Why is that?
I would think their experience, where they've been, and nobody. It's hard. It's very humbling and hard to take a step back. I personally don't care. Like, I don't care what position you put me in, as long as there's room for growth. I think I can move up. I think with our experience of where we've been at, especially being security forces, coming in with a different mindset, you start on the gate and you have aspirations to move up from there, get patrol or whatever your aspirations are from there. But some people are in the same job they did as an airman when they do it 20 years later. And so their mindset is, how do I start back over from doing this? They want to stay, or they want to stay fulfilled. I don't know why it's like that, but yeah, I don't know. Supervising civilians is completely different from, I would hit the money bell if I could. Bruh, amen to that. A little different. A lot different. Used to abuse the military for 20 years. They want to chill. Yeah. I get that. Don't want to supervise. I definitely get that. Supervise civilians complete. Oh, we just said that. Yeah. I definitely agree.
For me, it's tough. I'm kind of 50-50. There's a part of me that doesn't want anything to do with supervising, but there's a part of me is in my, not so much the supervision part, but the part to be able to be in a position to take care of people. Because some people think of supervision like being responsible for people, but there's another element as being able to guide and mentor and make decisions to help move people.
What's up, Chief?
It's a part of me. What's up, Chief? Non-supervisory.
I would think, like, I don't want to, because you're not supervising to mentor people anymore.
You ain't really supervise nobody anyway.
That's okay. Anyway, I probably got as many people as you got. But anyway,
I think not. Okay. I think.
I'm glad you said "think" is the key word.
Mentality. I know not. How about that?
Is the key word.
I know not. Wrong. That's wrong.
I will get to Russell Waite's comment. I seen it here. Honestly, majority of FGOs, primarily full birds, seem to have a need for the power, respect, and privilege they used to have in uniform. Yeah, for sure.
Great comment.
Yeah.
Great comment.
Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. In y'all's opinion, is it wrong going from being a leader, high vis, to just wanting a job to go home on the civilian side? No.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about now. Yeah, I don't think it's wrong. I think you got to do what's there's to Tony Renee. She said something about 20 years and burnt out. There are some people that have been in positions and they just can't take it anymore. Like, they just don't want to be in that position. Amber Green says, for me, when I punch, I don't want the feeling I currently have with always feeling needed. You go from being needed all day long at work by your folks to come home and be needed at home. I want to be able to put that energy at home and not feel siphoned by the time I get off work. I like that.
Yeah,
that's
give her.
That's a good one. I like that.
But Charles Davis. Hold on, I'll wait for it to come up. This is funny. All right.
Charles Davis. Also, I don't want to work on or next to any aircraft, especially gray tails. I see my maintainers retire and then do it all over again as a civilian. Hell no. It's funny. I got a friend, Mike Evans, who used to be a chief. Shout out to him in Arizona. He's actually deployed as a civilian, working as a contractor.
I remember
not working on jets, but kind of like, supervising folks working on jets. Devon says, well, DC, since you got that itch, I need a records review. You know I got you, brother. I'll do it. Tony Renee says, Michael Wallington, hell no. Especially for a few years, I feel I want to take a year off and do nothing, then get back into it. I don't know. To be honest, for you, I told myself I was going to say that. Anyway, I feel like after 4 or 5 months, I'm ready to go back to work.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I feel like I'm ready to go back to work, but preferably, I would not like to be in a position where I'm the one making all the decisions. I would like to be in an environment where I can help people. That's what I would like to do. But I don't want to be in an environment where I have no control over things. Russell Wade says, I supervise officers and senior NCOs, but not civilians. I love mentoring and coaching. Real talk, if y'all need advice, recommendations on how to navigate the process, feel free to reach out. RussellWade.1@us.af.mil. Appreciate it. I'm not surprised. Russell's always been a good friend of mine.
Javon McCoy, Chief first time.
Chief first time. Ha. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. After all, he does has his face in the 362903.
Hey, you're frozen, by the way. You're frozen, by the way.